Speedway Report is a production of ZTV. Well, is team racing becoming more prevalent in stock cars? We saw a little bit over the weekend. A long-standing Formula One win record fell. And when should we be running these NASCAR Cup Series races? Well, all this and more coming up. We're going to tackle some of these questions. Welcome to Speedway Report for Monday, October the 26th, 2020, from the shores of Lake Norman in Race City, USA, Mooresville, North Carolina. I'm Patrick Reynolds, and thank you for joining the fastest half hour in racing. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? If not, please do. Will be deposited right into your inbox, and you'll never miss a podcast. Got some good friends. Our good friend Leo down in South America, in Brazil, checks in with us every week. He's keeps up with us on YouTube. Chat with him just about every week online. Leo, thank you so much for being part of our audience. Let's take a trip around the Speedway Report Victory Lane lap. Start with the NASCAR Cup cars. Your current leader is Clint Bowyer, which he has been since late afternoon on Sunday as we go live here just past 7:30 on the East Coast. It has rained all day in Texas. Race was paused, red flagged, 52 laps complete on Sunday evening. Monday rescheduled. We've not turned a lap today. The race has been officially postponed and will be run Tuesday, October the 27th. Any big stories that come out of this, we'll be looking at this race as well as the upcoming NASCAR weekend in Martinsville. We'll talk about these on next week's Speedway Report. In other results from Fort Worth, Texas, the Xfinity race held Saturday was won by Harrison Burton, and the truck race that was held earlier on Sunday afternoon was won by Sheldon Creed. NASCAR's ARCA Series West made a doubleheader stop on the great state of California. On Friday night, they raced at Roseville, where Gio Scelzi was your winner, and Taylor Gray won Sunday afternoon in Bakersfield. IndyCar season completed their season at St. Petersburg, Florida, which was a really cool bookend to their season. If you remember, this was the opening race on the tour, and this was the weekend in mid-March where everything shut down here across the United States. In St. Pete, in the Grand Prix, actually on Friday morning, support classes got on track for practice before being yellow flag, red flag, checkered flag sent back to the paddock area. Then they packed up and dismantled the racetrack. They were actually that close to racing. It was an event that was going to be run originally without fans in mid-March. We had no idea what to do with COVID-19. But St. Petersburg was able to put this deal together, rebuild the track for this past weekend. The Grand Prix was finally held. Joseph Newgarden, driving for Team Penske, was the winner of the race, but Scott Dixon claims the series championship. Dixie is now six-time for IndyCar. In Formula One, Lewis Hamilton won in Portugal for the 92nd career win. He is now the all-time F1 win leader, one ahead of Michael Schumacher. Down in Houston, Texas, at least they got some racing in, but this was the NHRA variety. In Top Fuel, Tony Schumacher was your winner. Tommy Johnson Jr. claimed funny car. Aaron Stanfield won in Pro Stock. Also a sportsman race winner over the weekend, so he saw Victory Lane twice down in Houston. And Eddie Krawiec won in Pro Stock Motorcycle, breaking an almost 2-year winless drought. The rain plagued the World of Outlaw Series late models up in Kokomo, Indiana on Friday night and Peevely, Missouri on Saturday. Both events were rained out earlier in the week. However, the Saturday night race at Kokomo for the World of Outlaw Sprint Cars did get the race in. Sheldon Haudenschild stood in Victory Lane at the end of the A main. Down here closer to our studios in North Carolina, John Smith won on the 0.4 of a mile Ashboro over for the Southern Modified Racing Series. New series, they like 99 lappers. Johnny Smith won the 99 lapper. Eastern States Weekend took place at Middletown, New York, in a very much different format with a Friday and Saturday night racing. as opposed to the Thursday through Sunday big 4-day weekend. In the sportsman division, 12-year-old Tanner Van Doren, 12 years old, won the Dirt Sportsman race in the small block modified 75 lapper. Jimmy Phelps was your winner. And the Big Eastern States 200 was won by Matt Williamson. He likes the Big Bunny Dirt Modified race. Does well. As well as Big Money, we had 10 grand go to the winner of the Tri-Track Series event held at Stafford. Went to Chase Dowling. Big race there. 51 entries I think they had. Resulted in at least one B main, if not two B mains. When's the last time that happened in modified racing? I think it's a competitive event when the pavement modifieds get together and there's enough cars to send guys home that don't make the field. You really have a quality feature. I hate seeing guys not qualify, but back when I grew up, there were more cars that did not qualify than actually made the main event at most pavement modified racing. Who's with us tonight? Ruth Ann is with us. Hey, how are you? Thomas Warren is with us. Bill Pratt, BP, will be hosting Drag List Live at the top of the hour. I'm going to reach over here and scroll just to see who else is here. Nobody. Okay. There might be some folks here, but you guys chatted with me. So, hey, everybody. Thanks for being along for the ride tonight. I talked about this a little bit last week. World of Outlaw World Finals are no longer. It's going to be last call, and that is a big, big event in Charlotte here. Not going to be anywhere near the same as we still deal with the coronavirus. Coming up the first weekend in November, as I look at the calendar, it will be technically next week as we do the race, or as we do the show live here on Monday. Wednesday and Thursday of next week will be the World of Outlaw late models here in Charlotte. On Friday and Saturday will be the World of Outlaw sprint cars. Dirt modifieds out of the Northeast will not happen. Safety precautions, trying to keep everybody far apart, one division at a time here at the Speedway. Run the late models for 2 nights, pack them up, move them out, move the sprints in 2 nights here. The way of the world in 2020. Yeah, I can't wait to get to 2021 either. Let's get to, I want to talk about this sportsman race, dirt sportsman race at Orange County Fair Speedway in Middletown, New York. These cars, the audience members that are up in New York know what they are. For the rest of the world, these are center steer dirt modifieds where the chassis is pretty much the same from a sportsman car, a small block modified, a big block modified. The cars themselves are pretty much the same. It's the engine configuration, wheel and tire rules, carburetors, things like that, which really differentiate between the divisions. If you're unfamiliar with them and park 3 of them side by side, a sportsman, a small block, and a big block, to the untrained eye, they pretty much look identical. So you know what kind of car we're talking about. Well, the sportsman race was won by a 12-year-old, and I'm just wondering myself, I think that's, 1, a phenomenal accomplishment. 2, is that too young to be in a full-size race car at only 12? Do you possess the mental maturity to handle some adverse situations which those type of racing can get you involved with? For instance, well, we saw some events at Texas in the NASCAR races over the weekend where guys, let's call it what they were pissed at each other. Guys sticking each other in the fence, hard hits. When do you get a 12-year-old out there racing against grown adults? It can be, I don't know, I just see 2 adults beating on each other or mad at each other as one thing. If there's a problem at a racetrack and 2 guys get into each other, they get out of the cars and want to fight, and there's 2 adults, that's one thing. If the 12-year-old pisses off another guy and then the guy gets out of the car and wants to fight, what's he supposed to do with a 12-year-old boy? I'm not sure. Do you have to go find his father or his parents? I don't know how you handle that. Most guys, I've seen them mad. We all have. Guys are mad. They reach into the, you're in a crash, but you're mad at the other guy. One driver hop out, reach right in the cockpit. The other one start wailing on the guy, yelling at him, cursing at him, grabbing his helmet, things like that. If you crash with a 12-year-old kid and you go up to the cockpit, you're not always going to know it's a young guy, an old guy, whatever. What do you do? What's going to happen? And I don't know the answer to this. If you want to throw something in there, the throw it in there in the chat. I'd love to see it. Hey, Bill from Kalamazoo. Good to see you, my friend. Would like anybody's thoughts on that. When an adult is racing a 12-year-old and the 12-year-old makes the adult mad, what's the adult supposed to do? You know, that we've seen yelling in the pits. We've seen yelling at the racetrack. We see it on TV a lot. There was a lot of some altercations and some tempers flaring at Fort Worth, Texas. It happens. There were some guys mad at each other at St. Petersburg for the IndyCar race. It happens every weekend. When your opponent is a 12-year-old boy, what do you do? I'm not sure. I never had this situation. I was at least 18, 19, something like that, the first time I got into a race car, so it was okay with me. I just went out there and I raced. I was probably one of the younger guys out there at that time, but racing ages have dropped year to year to years from when I was that age, so I'm not sure what you do in that situation. That's where mental maturity comes into play. Mature adults lose their temper and lose their cool. With an immature 12-year-old, how is he going to react? What is a 12-year-old going to do when he gets mad? These are just situations that the 12-year-old will find himself in. What is the recourse here? That's what I wonder, whether a 12-year-old is too young to be in a full-sized race car. I think it is, just from a mental maturity standpoint. I think it's an incredible accomplishment to win the Eastern States weekend. I worry about the potential what-ifs here and consequences that the parents of the 12-year-old may be putting him in front of as we go down the road here. Not a good situation for a child at 12 years old. To me, in spite of the win here, you still belong in a go-kart. Maybe when you're 16 or older, can hold a license on the street. You can hold a steering wheel on a dirt modified at Middletown, New York. Well, we talked about tempers at Texas. I alluded to that a little bit ago. Noah Gragson dropped an F-bomb during his interview following the Xfinity Series race, losing the race to Harrison Burton in the final corner. Ben Rhodes was mad at Christian Eckes and wrecked him into the fence during the truck race. And Eckes, Kyle Busch Motorsports teammate, in turn wrecked Ben Rhodes as retaliation. Let's talk about this. Noah Gragson, early 20s, 21 maybe, something like that. Young kid, though as I call it a young kid at 21, never mind the 12-year-old up at Middletown, New York. But Gragson was mad at himself. You're leading the race and you lose it in the final corner in this silly playoff system they have. I know it's big consequences where he's coming from. Not that I care about playoffs. It has no interest to me, which makes these races mind-boggling, crazy to even sit through. I can't do it because I can't do playoffs. But I understand Gragson dropping the F-bomb here on TV from your passion, your desire to win, that energy, and being a young age. Again, the mental maturity comes up. Could someone older have composed themselves a little better for a TV interview? Maybe, maybe not. But the mental maturity part is there. Ben Rhodes gave the description that Christian Eckes just about wrecked him through the corner of turn 4, and that Ben bounced off the wall, was collecting the truck, as he said, one fist over the other, and wound up turning left into Eckes. That's what he says, or he could have just taken Eckes out. Either way, again, Rhodes, good dude, but he's in his 20s. Noah Gragson, good dude, they're in their 20s. Here's how they reacted versus a 12-year-old on a dirt track. Myself, I'd gladly say my 20s was almost like a 10-year waste. I wasn't really grown up, I didn't think, till I was 30. The 20s were just an extension of my teens, the way I matured. And, looking back now, I can see where my life was. But I don't think I was actually a grown adult until I was about 30. The 20s was just a number. I still had a lot of maturing and growing up to do in my 20s. These guys are doing 200 miles an hour, and you got to hit a 12-year-old doing 120 miles per hour. Something to think about as we place these young guys in these positions of danger, of adrenaline racing, and just tempers flaring. And we have race cars that can be used as weapons. Ben Rhodes says he was collecting the truck. A lot of people don't believe him on that one, and it's certainly his teammate, the Christian Ecke's teammate, certainly used that retaliation at 180 miles per hour at Texas. These are what young 20-year-olds are doing at that level with their maturity and what they think they can and cannot do in a race car. I asked the question on the teaser promos for this show, is team racing coming into stock car racing too much? We saw that this weekend. Brett Moffitt pushed Sheldon Creed to the win in the truck race on early on Sunday afternoon. That puts Sheldon Creed into the final round of the Truck Series playoffs. Brett Moffitt, his GMS teammate, pushed him there. He was Moffitt already being in the final round at Phoenix, coming up with the top 4. So can we do that? Can we not do that? I know stock car fans are not a fan of team orders. There's a lot of team orders in Formula One, but even F1 fans do not like team orders. There was also a suspicious event at the Cars feature, the Cars Late Model Stock Car race at Greenville Pickens, South Carolina, where Jared Fryer wound up, let's see, what did he do? Fryer wound up finishing, I think it was 13th in the race, but it was enough to clinch the championship for the late model stock cars for the season. And his teammate, Timothy Peters, suspiciously had an engine problem and pulled into the pit area. Very likely, very possibly a legitimate situation. Also enough to raise eyebrows, where a lot of people in social media said, what's going on here, a little bit, as Fryer was able to earn enough points to clinch the championship, while Peters pulled it into pit road and into the garage area and gave his teammate Jared Fryer enough positions to claim the season-long championship. What was the real story? Very possible Peters had engine trouble, no problem. But it was certainly brought up by a lot of people that it looks suspicious, and perception is often reality. We had team orders look like at GMS with Moffitt pushing Creed to the checkered flag. Did Peters pull in the late stages of the late model race at Greenville Pickens for Jared Fryer to clinch a championship? Wasn't there, but that's why I got a comment section on my social media. I'd like to hear from you guys. What do you think? Too much team orders? Do you think Moffitt could have gotten around Creed, but he didn't because of this playoff situation? Did Timothy Peters legitimately have an engine problem? Timothy Peters, I've met before, talked with, is a guest on this show before. Great guy, good racer. Jared Fryer, again, from a great family. However, after the Cars Series race at Greenville Pickens, my social media blew up with people suspecting, keyboard cowboys, of what happened really with Timothy Peters and Jared Fryer. Possibly legitimate, but you certainly know how it looks. What do you guys think? That's what social media comments are for. Josh Berry, meanwhile, wound up winning that late model stock car race for the Cars Tour. Hell of a week for Josh Berry, my goodness. NASCAR's weekly racing series grassroots national champion, got the Cars win at Greenville Pickens Speedway, and he is announced that he will make about a dozen starts in the Xfinity Series in 2021 for Junior Motorsports, driving for Dale Jr. As I said in the Victory Lane lap, we have no Cup race results to talk about. We did have time to talk about the truck race here. The truck race started at noon and was over probably around 2 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. If we started the Cup race at noon, we probably would have gotten that in as well, for 500 miles. Didn't we always used to start these things at noon? 1 o'clock at the latest? Well, 1 o'clock used to be a late start for a Cup. Now here we are starting at 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon for the TV windows as they want it to go into Sunday night. And here we are on a Monday Night Live. We're looking at a Tuesday race at Fort Worth, Texas, and guess what? The weather looks horrible as the forecast for Tuesday. It looks rainy on Wednesday. The forecast is clear on Thursday. Your guess is as good as mine what we're going to do with this. We could probably run it on Thursday, bring those guys back here because those same cars will not run at Martinsville Halloween weekend. And the shops are here around Mooresville. It's about a 2-hour ride to Martinsville. Not too bad. But we'll watch this day to day like the rest of you and see really what happens when we actually run this cup race. The last time a cup race was won on a Tuesday, anybody know? Anybody know? I'll give you the answer. Atlanta, 2001 in September, a Tuesday race won by Jeff Gordon. Little trivia for there. Last time I remember one before that was 07 in Michigan. In August, Kurt Busch was in a Penske car, and I believe he won that, if we're looking at Tuesdays. But during the rain delay, what's the good part about this? Well, I know a lot of you got a chance for your first time. Again, social media tells me a lot. You got a chance to see some episodes of Lost Speedways on NBCSN. This is available through the Peacock app if you want to go. That's NBC's streaming service. I highly recommend it. I watched the entire season of Lost Speedways. It's 8 episodes. They're about 25 minutes apiece, so it's not like I strung hours and hours together. But I was able to watch the entire season last week, and Racers Reunion friends Cody Dismore and Tim Leeming loaned their expertise to this with historical facts. Cody Dinsmore about Middle Georgia Raceway, This is the one with the moonshine still under the property that Gary Ballou actually climbed down into the tunnel with Tiny London. The two of them were in the cave with the still, and Tim Leeming lent his expertise to the Augusta Road Course event. That Richard Petty, Rex White was also in it. Dave McDonald suffered a horrible death at the Indianapolis 500, but that was on the road course in Augusta, Georgia. It was pretty neat watching our Racers Reunion cohorts loaning their expertise and historical knowledge to this. They both did a fantastic job on camera. I'm proud of both of these guys. Happy I know them both. And if you haven't seen Lost Speedways, do yourself a favor. Blends right into our Ghost Tracks Racers Reunion angle that we played for a lot of years and did a lot of work with at the old network. It just talks about tracks that were once there and are no longer there. It's sad, but I'm glad they're at least documented and cataloged. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Matt Dillner do an outstanding job hosting this show. This is a must-watch for all racers. Talk about history, old tracks, short tracks, weekly racing, old stories. Oh, gosh, wonderful, wonderful stories. Sad these tracks are gone, but I'm thrilled that Dale Jr. and Matt Dillner got out there and at least archived some history of these before they're swallowed up even further by Mother Nature or just the years. And as I'm prepared to get out of here this week, if you're around the Lake Norman area, I'm going to be spending a lot of time this week at the Old Town Public House in Cornelius. It's a little pub/coffee house. With the reopening phases here in North Carolina, the coffee portion is open and will be open pretty much all morning. Every day, come on by. I'll be there doing some work with my laptop. Please stop in and say hello in Cornelius, North Carolina, if you're around the Lake Norman region. As a tip to Dave Despain and Motor Week Illustrated, 5:35 Sunday afternoons, WTBS in the 80s. Hallelujah, must-see TV. We're going to talk about our Racer of the Week. Had a lot of, as always, a lot of contenders, a lot of nominees in my head. I was like, what was the biggest, most impressive that I put on the pedestal? I'm going to give this week's Racer of the Week. I'm sure he's watching the show with bated breath. Out of New Zealand, Scott Dixon, 6-time IndyCar champion, is the Speedway Report Racer of the Week. Congrats, Dixie. In between our broadcasts, keep up on the world of auto racing with SpeedwayReport.com. This show and all of our past shows are archived on the site. So you're on a road trip, download a podcast, maybe a few for yourself, and take them along with you. Hook up to us on social media. On our Facebook page, Speedway Report with Patrick Reynolds, on Racers Reunion, and on Twitter, we're at Speedway Report or at Speedway Pat, and head on over to the old website, racersreunion.com in the forum. And as I said at the top of the show, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you for everyone that joined the Facebook Live feed tonight and the conversation. I'll hit you guys back up in a little bit. I want to thank all of our military past and present for the freedoms we enjoy as Americans in our daily life, including the simple things like bench racing right here on the Monday night. Freedom is not free, and a veteran paid that bill for us. To all of the men and women who are watching Speedway Report, defending freedom, you take care of yourselves and come home soon. A special salute to the teachers, school staff, firefighters, police officers, and paramedics in our own communities. They are quiet and modest heroes every single day. God bless and thank you. You've been watching Speedway Report from the shores of Lake Norman in Race City, USA, Mooresville, North Carolina. Please like our Facebook page, Speedway Report with Patrick Reynolds, and give me a follow on Twitter. I'm at Speedway Pat. Now, right now, if you're watching us live on Facebook, head on over to the Drag Racing List page, because Drag List Live is coming up at the top of the hour. Bill Pratt and John Bockelman will be there with all the straight line news. Now, I'll be back live here on Facebook Monday. It will be November the 2nd. We're going to have IMSA at Laguna Seca, NASCAR National Series at Martinsville, Virginia, and whatever big stories come out of Fort Worth when they finally get that race in. NHRA will be in Las Vegas for their championship weekend, and all the latest news that I can find. Thank you all for watching. You take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. I'll see y'all next week.